Is this your slideshow right here, right now, or is it? Seem not, but I like it.
I like that!
You just want to use it?
I'm counting on someone to tell me when it's 1:30.
It's 1:28. What's really funny about my tablet is I always forget there's a camera in it.
There's a camera in this one, but I have no idea how to work it.
It probably works like the others. You hit the camera.
You would think so, but I haven't been able to figure it out. Hello.
Oh, it has video too.
Hello. Sorry. Oh, no worries, we're not starting yet. You're not going to do that, are you?
Oh, I already did. I'm seeing like I'm trying to figure out how to do a selfie. Oh, you don't think it's not because I'm gonna get a picture of you? She's gonna photobomb me in my selfie.
That was awesome. Me hiding.
Wait. I just have never used this for this.
You can't even have a seat. I'm sorry.
That's brilliant.
Maybe we should sit in some spots.
I don't have to.
I was going to
Yeah,
say,
like
while these
walking.
people are going to be here, I maybe better stand.
I just need to stay on the angle in case I have to go.
What, you think the kids are going to need you?
Well, I just, Ralph isn't just leaning. And sometimes he'll be like, they're making noise or something.
So I should move up here so I'm directly in your selfie. Is that what you're saying?
I was just saying, I've just never used it.
You want to take a picture, and you want to take a selfie, but you don't want to look at yourself while you're taking your selfie.
Yeah, it's easier.
Close your eyes and then open.
Because then I'm like half of my face and I'm like, I'm gonna stop.
I'm going to go ahead and get started. I know we have one person coming back, but he'll make it at some point, or he won't, and then he'll have problems. My name is Kathy Jacobs. I work at a company called Nation Builder. I used to live here in the Valley. I've been part of TechPHX since the very first one. We're here today to talk about something I called passion to action to change. But what you really might think about this as is using your passion to organize others to make things happen. If you've been to my presentations before, you know I tend to give a lot of technical knowledge and a lot of here's this and here's that. I've done that all my life. Here's these rules and for using these tools for doing this and that. But something I've learned over the last year is that that's not passion. That's a tale. So what I'm here to talk to you about today is passion and storytelling. I'm going to start with the hardest piece of any presentation I have ever done. I'm going to tell you my story. The story of who I am and who I've become. I am someone who hides behind the expectations others have of her. It started when I was very little. It continued for many years after. I learned that life was not stable at a very young age. My dad worked. And for some of you, the sentence "my dad worked" means my dad worked 9 to 5 somewhere. My dad worked usually at a power plant 20 miles from our house. And we moved for his job every 2 years to every 6 years. I learned very young that there were expectations of me, and I would meet those expectations. And that the only time I would have my dad dedicated time was during the 2 weeks a year we went camping away from the phones so that work could not reach him. And that just put me more into, I want to escape. I will do what people want me to do, but when I'm ready to escape, I'm going to pick up a book. And I'm going to read it. And when people ask me things, because it's easy, I'm going to tell them the facts. I'm not going to tell them the story. We moved so many times when I was a kid that by second grade, I was telling my friends, because we had just moved to a new place, it's nice to know you. I'll miss you when we move in 2 years. We actually stayed there 6 years. Do you know what that does to a kid? 6 years in one place after you've moved 2 years for the first 10 years of your life. No structure whatsoever, because every structure that was went away. But the one piece of structure that was still there was that I was expected to do. I was expected to be smart and take care of everyone's problems and sit in the corner and make the peace. I was expected to be a Girl Scout because everyone else was. And I was expected to do the service projects because, again, I could hide. I could do what others wanted and I didn't have to think about myself. I'm not saying I didn't love some of the things I had to do because they were expected of me. But I did them because they were expected of me. And in 9th grade, we moved to the Philippine Islands. We'd moved twice since 2nd grade at that point. And when I was in the Philippines, I went to boarding school. And I learned in boarding school that everybody else didn't live like I did. Everybody else knew what this thing called structure was. And that the rest of the world didn't expect from me what my parents expected from me. I was allowed to be myself. Unfortunately, after a year, we left. And we came back to the States, and I went back into that little tiny box in the Midwest, and I was who everybody expected to be. And I was who I was expected to be all through high school. My best friends didn't know anything about my life. They knew me. They didn't know my mother drank. They didn't know things were thrown around the house. Because if you have grown up in one of those environments, you know. You don't say that, because what's expected of you is to keep the face on. I went to college, married this gentleman over here, and you know, I had made some of my best friends, and I did what I was expected to do. I even think, whether he knows this or not, that we got married because it was expected of us. It was the expectation that we would continue to do what others wanted us to do.
Certainly the way we got married, the number of people was.
That's for sure. And then because I had gotten the degree that I did, I went and did technical work because that was what was expected of me. I moved into training after a while, and I still did technical training because that was what was expected of me. We adopted a child because since I couldn't have any, that was what expected. You're a parent. You're supposed to have kids. I love my kid. I even became a serial volunteer because it was so much easier to do what everyone else wanted done than to stop and step back and figure out what I wanted. About a year and a half ago, all that started to change. I was hired by a company by the name of Nation Builder. And I was at the bottom of the world when I got the call from Nation Builder. We had moved out of our apartment here in Phoenix, and we had moved because I'd messed up some paperwork, and we had nothing. And in the middle of having nothing, Nation Builder called and said, do you want to interview? Do you want to come? We want you to come do support for us. That's a little mind-blowing. What was more mind-blowing was, yes, we really want you to come. We'll do this so you will come. I went. And then I found out over the next few months that I kind of liked what I did, and I could do it well, which was support for the project. But there was something else that was going on that I wanted to do much more. I have always been a tester at heart. I love to break things to make them better. And up until the point in my career of last February, when Nation Builder said we don't have a support team anymore, I always thought I was a Jane of all trades. I did everything. And again, I did everything because it was what was expected, and it was easier to let somebody else tell me what to do than to decide to stand up and say, this is what I believe in, this is what I want to do. In February, they dissolved the support team. Do you want to talk scary? Have the CEO of the startup you work with say to your team, I want to have a meeting with you all because we're disbanding your team. They didn't disband us, they disbanded the team. And they moved us to jobs where instead of doing support of the customers, we were doing support of the other people in the building. And then the tech guys started coming to me. Kathy, I think there's a problem with my code. Can you do it like a customer and see what happens? Kathy, I know that they just sent out this, but I've been looking at the code we sent out and I think there's a problem. March, April, May, gets to the point where the bosses are saying, wait a minute, did you ask Kathy before you sent that out? In June, they do something that my boss never thought he would do, the CEO, because I now work for the CEO. He does agile development. He is agile development all the way, definitely not what people expect of him. And he doesn't believe in a software test team. And in the end of June, he built a software test team. And you're listening to it. And I discovered that people would pay me to break their products to make it better. And I stopped doing what people expected of me. And I started doing what I expected of me. I started being who I should have been all along. There's nobody else up here saying this. There's just me. My passion is breaking things for Nation Builder. That's who I am. If you can't find that who you are, you can never move from passion to action, let alone to change. So the next thing we're going to do this afternoon is I would like you all to split up into pairs. You're going to have 7 minutes each side of the pair to tell each other your story. And I've learned something very important from a friend at Nation Builder. We all tell tales very easily. But a tale won't generate passion. The story, the arc. How did I get from here to here? The part that makes people sit up and go, oh, I believe in that too. That's your story, and that's what starts you down the road. So I want everybody to take about 7, pick somebody, whether you know them or not, and are you good? What the heck up here? I think he's not either. And I'll tell you when about 7 minutes have gone by.
Oh, you're the one who got my prize.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that a great deal? I'm tired.
Do you have a partner first?
I'm Ivana. Karen. Nice to meet you. I thought maybe we were doing real something.
Sorry, I left.
We lost you.
Hey, Bruce Jacobs.
So you ready to go to the We'll run you
I
down.
mean, these various things. Girl Scout training.
Yes, I
Not very sure. Still like job.
I've built in a WordPress about 5
So,
years ago, so
actually,
now I've done a bunch of things. passionate about
And
building.
recently I had a kids
And right now, I'm just trying to
So,
figure out niche markets, so
but
I, this, you know,
I'm kind of looking to try and decide what I want to do. I did like helping this,
you know, like a lot of the
I've done some things.
and in WordPress, I've learned some about SEO and some of that stuff, content marketing,
Three different
which
types
is
of
why
actually
actually
more money than I
Well, we're doing an exercise.
One thing that ordered me to,
so I'm trying to this brand called
but
We started
really,
with
I kind of really want to go to working in the manufacturing Yes, that's my cat. There you go. So that's really what I'm asking.
small
I've been there for that one.
Probably when I was younger, I did a lot of art projects with us for music. I worked with organizational creators. My parents they volunteer to go and mentor kids. Whereas almost
There have been a couple times in my career where I really bought into work. It's been my passion. And the first time I was really successful the company I was working for became obvious. There was a limited piece of the company what we were doing. Second company, I was at 7.5 years. I was doing great, you know. And then the company went bankrupt. Well, and it wasn't that they were being inefficient. That's place I've been working. But they paid well, treated people nicely. I see it was a jerk in the area together. And then the CEO retired and got into the board. We're company. As they're winding down, I had a break in borrowing. And then
How long is that?
so now I need to find something beginning to work really well. So I need to work back, big
I know, it's very.
I went from being the other eye being bad. But that's okay.
One of the things
It's been a few years. Where do you live in We're about 15 miles east of LA. Yeah, people were complaining or Friday or Wednesday.
Okay, if you haven't switched
Oh
people
my
yet,
gosh, it was, you know, it was like,
if you haven't switched people yet, switch people.
yes.
Are we switching people?
Yeah, we did. We both talked.
Have you switched people?
Now, what does
I
that
mean,
mean?
have you talked to the other person? Has everybody talked to both sides?
Yeah.
Cool, then let's get back together.
Okay.
All right, so.
We didn't know if you wanted to scramble again or.
Oh, no, not yet, not yet. So. Anybody feel like sharing either what they talked about or what they learned from the other half? Oh, that's so scary, Kathy. I won't make anybody share that doesn't want to. But did anybody learn something they didn't know, find out something about themselves or about the other person, and want to share it?
Well, I don't know if this is not a new observation, but all of us have certain skills that we often, apply to the job market for money. We have to make a living. And at some point, the reason we're all here is that we wanted meaning, not just money.
Meaning that, I like the way you put that. That's one of those little phrases that really makes it a story, not a tale. Because I can guarantee you, looking around this, the shaking, I know you and I discussed it, until you figure out that meaning, you're not going to start figuring out, how can I afford to do this? If you don't know what it is that makes you passionate, it doesn't matter how important that passionate item is. You'll never get there if you're waiting for somebody else to do it. And yes, that means taking the risk. And yes, that means having all the fun of, oh my God, I might have to step away from work for a little while.
I learned something about Ivana. She's from Brazil and she works with children and social advocacy and social justice. And so part of why she's here is with a program at Cronkite School, trying to become a better communicator to advance those causes. And I thought it was kind of neat. We kind of share that connection. I also have a passion for working with children and more do that in my volunteer life than my professional life.
Something I've learned that's another one of those key things that makes your tale into a story. Repeat that last sentence again. You've done things with kids with your...
My volunteer life, but not my professional.
Okay, if you're going from passion to action to change, can you have a volunteer life and a regular life? Don't we all just have a life? It took a long time for me to realize that what you're passionate about, you're passionate about. Yes, you spend some of your time on other things. But what your passion and your story is your life. I never understood that till recently. One life? No. We've all got all the lives that we want. We can remake ourselves every time. So, what other threads did people see? You guys had some good conversations, so I hope one of you pipes up. Any others?
I just thought it was interesting how we have a lot of we've never met before, but we have a lot of similarities, and being able to or being forced out of a career, and then at that pivotal moment deciding this is what I really want to do. I mean, sometimes passion is born out of adversity, right?
Mm-hmm. In the world of the politician, I hate that the company I work with started as political because that's not really what we're all about. But we teach something called organizing. In the political world, organizing doesn't mean putting things on the shelf where they belong. Organizing means taking the people who are available to you, who share your passion and your interest, and getting them to help you make the change you want to make. Thinking in terms of the people who will retweet for you, the people who will write for you, the people who will walk door to door with you and knock and say, hey, this is up for this referendum, or this person's up for election. The political world has done that for years with specified goals around it. The nonprofit world is only starting to learn that.
Boy, that is really loud.
Yeah!
It could be worse. Downstate, in the main room, they used to do fencing classes.
Yes.
Above it. So they stop.
So, nonprofits are starting to learn this, but businesses need to learn this too. This is one of the reasons I have these M&Ms. Okay, I said I work for Nation Builder, I do software testing. That's only 4/5 of the truth. Because 4 out of 5 days of the week, I do software testing. And the 5th day of the week is Saturday. And I spend Saturday training the new organizers, what we call our salespeople. Our salespeople, our organizers, are there to help their customers figure out how best to organize for their cause. As my reward for working Saturdays, every week, I get a bag of green mint M&Ms. Have a few. Share my reward. Because this is another point about your story.
Want me to hand it around?
Sure, would you mind them around?
Sure.
If you don't share your story, if you don't share your passion with at least one other person, you never start to define it to yourself. It's that sharing out loud that helps you figure out, this is what I've been trying to tell myself. This is where I'm meant to go. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so every Saturday I share a bag of mint M&Ms with people who come from the organizers team, and now they ask me, the customer asked this week, and I answer, okay, calm down. What they're really asking is, well, I don't know. Stop, calm down. What are they really asking? Well, I think she means to do this. You're probably right, and what should you tell her? Well, this, and this. All right, I'll go email her. And the person will come back about 10 minutes later and say, that's the fastest I've ever gotten an answer from them. Because it isn't, this is point 2, it isn't just sharing what you know. It's being confident that what you know is worth sharing. Because if what you know isn't worth sharing, it's not your passion. And if it is your passion, it doesn't matter whether anybody else wants to hear it. You're going to share it, and every time you share it, it'll become easier. to nation builder, I had spent the last 10 years running my own small business into the ground. I was a serial volunteer. It was much easier to do for free and do for what everybody else expected. And that meant I posted a lot on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else. In fact, CJ will tell you I've been known to overpost a few times. But what was on Twitter and Facebook wasn't me. It was the facts. And what I've learned is social media is important, not because it's a tool, but because it's a way for you to express your passion. I'm going to pick on you.
Okay.
Tell me in 15 words or less what your passion is.
Writing novels.
Global businesses.
Talking to people.
Still trying to figure it out.
That's a legitimate answer, and I know that.
Singing.
Helping people.
What's yours? 10 words or less.
Improving the tools to help people.
I love it.
Education.
What's your?
Creating beautiful things and helping people share their stories.
Great ideas.
Making children's happy.
Making the, okay. Is there any of those passions that the rest of the room couldn't share in? Would you have known it? Well, someday we gotta find yours. There's one in every room. He hasn't gone through the change over the last year that I had to go through. I pay for his life now. But if you think about it, until you find that core of what you are, you can't tell anybody else. Now, I have a couple of examples of this. And one of them is a poem that I'm going to share. And CJ, I'm going to tell you who wrote this poem because you're about to inscribe it on a bunch of people's hearts. The poem is called The Journey. And it's by Mary Oliver. And when I found this poem, or when it was brought to me, it was like, oh my, life changes. One day, you finally knew what you had to do, and began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble, and you felt the tug on your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations. Though their melancholy was terrible, it was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through sheets of clouds. And there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized was your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could ever save. I love especially that phrase about clutching at your ankles. If you don't know what your life is supposed to be about, all those things clutching at your ankles, all those expectations of everybody else, what do?
Keep you from going after it.
They keep you from going after it. So how do you keep them from pulling you down? Because if you've got a dream, you know everybody's going to say, well, you have to have this and this and this, and you got to have enough money to pay for it and this. How do you keep them from pulling you down? Say that really loud.
Don't listen to it.
Don't listen to it. 3 really easy words to say. Or 4, sorry. But 4 of the hardest words. And I pointed this out to CJ especially because without knowing it, if you didn't know that poem already, I look at that as what you did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whenever you guys split. You stepped away from the voices that were pulling you down, and you found what you wanted to do. I say this because she's one of my heroes. The thing with finding your voice, once you've told it once or twice, it doesn't matter if anybody else listens. Because you suddenly begin to realize that what you're doing matters and can save someone, and that someone is yourself. It doesn't have to be something big and huge. How am I doing on time? And I have 4. Okay, cool. I have a video I'd like to play for you guys. But I have to warn you, it's 12 minutes long, and I know we're not supposed to play long videos in this world. If I start it, will you guys promise to tell me if you get bored and want to stop it?
I promise there again.
That's good. All right. This video is a guy by the name of Jim Gilliam. And Jim is the CEO of Nation Builder.
This is before he was tweeting.
This was done before he did Nation Builder. This is, in fact, why Nation Builder came to be. Actually, Bruce, can I have you pull it up because I can't see what I'm doing back here?
You may want to turn the lights down.
I will once you find it for me. I want the internet. I want the internet is myreligion.com. Jim has lived through more than most people I've ever known could have thought about. He was raised in a very, very strict Christian family. He went to a Christian Bible college, or started to. And while he was there, they found he had lung cancer. And 2 weeks later, they found his mother had breast cancer. She didn't survive, he did. And he started to question everything. This was quite a while ago, and since then he's done a few jobs and different things. But a few years ago, he gave a speech called "The Internet is My Religion."
I don't know if we're going to have sound at first, so.
Oh, well, he doesn't do much good without sound.
Yeah. I can get sound.
Uh-oh, we don't have sound.
Okay.
Is there a link where we could look it up on our own?
Yes.
Do you know how
Yep.
to make it?
The name of the site is theinternetismyreligion.com.
She says there should be sound. I have
Steve?
cross in this room.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Here. I don't know what they've done, so.
And the thing with this video, this was done at PDF
There we
in
go.
2011.
Thank
Yay.
you.
Let's watch it and then I'll tell you the story behind it.
Okay.
You want to go get it again, Bruce?
What?
Never mind.
There are 3 pillars to a successful movement: stories, tools, and faith. We've heard amazing stories the last 24 hours, and many of us are building the tools for democracy. But what I want to talk about is faith, my struggle with faith. Growing up, I had 2 loves: Jesus and the internet. My dad worked for IBM, and my family moved out to Silicon Valley when I was very young. Our home happened to be right across the street from a church. This wasn't any church, though. This church had thousands of members and was ground zero for Jerry Falwell's new moral majority movement on the West Coast. I was born again when I was 8. I put my faith in Jesus and became quite the precocious young conservative. As a teenager, I developed a fiercely independent worldview. I went on mission trips, I listened to Rush Limbaugh, I called talk radio, all while my mom homeschooled my 2 sisters and I, trying to protect us from the corrupting influences of the secular world. Then one day, my dad brought home this funny-looking phone and plugged it into his computer. It made this bizarre screeching noise like it was trying to mate with a rhinoceros or something. Instead, it attracted me. That's when I found out that computers could talk to each other. From that point on, it was all over for me, right? I would do my schoolwork in the morning, I would go to church 3 times a week, and then I would go online. And I'd meet all kinds of people: hackers, feminists, punks, Tori Amos fans, people far older than me who had no idea that I was 12 years old. I was judged by my brain, not discounted because of my age. I loved it. I went to college at Liberty University. This is where Jerry Falwell trained young soldiers to go out into the kingdom of God and into every profession and win it for the kingdom of God. massive operation, thousands of students on campus, tens of thousands off campus, all connected by a global network of churches and an infrastructure that dated back 2,000 years. My role was in the computer lab. I spent all my time there. I brought the internet to campus. I set up Liberty's first website. I even fixed Dr. Falwell's computer. But by spring break, I'd run out of breath. Literally, I couldn't breathe. I had cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I started chemo right away with my family and the church by my side, but 2 weeks into it, we found out that my mom had cancer too. 9 rounds of chemo later, I survived, she didn't. Our family was destroyed, and my faith in God was left shattered. My ticket out of all of this mess was at a startup in Boston. But just 6 months into it, the cancer came back. This time it was in my blood. My only chance was that they could find a bone marrow donor. And even then, it was a long shot. I had maybe a 10% chance of surviving. So the doctor started looking, but then I spent 2 months in the hospital getting hammered with chemo. I was in the ICU constantly. I almost died a couple of times. I was so much pain that I had this button to push, right? And every time I pressed it, I would be injected with pharmaceutical-grade heroin. Every time I did, I felt defeated and broken. I just wanted to end. God had forsaken me. But the doctors hadn't. They found a donor. I spent 2 weeks getting baked in an oven of radiation, and then early one morning, groggy from all the Benadryl, I watched as a small bag of marrow emptied into my arm. I walked out of the hospital 2 weeks later, replenished with the blood of a stranger. I was determined to sort of move on with my life, so I gave my heart to the internet. I was an engineer at Lycos, one of the first search engines. I was a CTO at business.com, all up until 9/11. Then the activist in me awoke. I was under no illusions that I could actually change anything, but I knew this was a historic moment, and that if I didn't at least try, I would regret it in 10 years. Robert Greenwald was looking for someone to research the Iraq War for his first documentary. I sent him a link to my blog, and the next day I was a movie producer. 4 crazy, intense months later, we drove up to our very first screening at an indie theater in Santa Monica. The line was around the block. We added a second screening that night, and in a matter of weeks, thousands of screenings all over the world were organized by activists, all coordinated through the internet. And bit by bit, the media changed the way they talked about the war. Holy crap, this works! My faith was restored, but it wasn't faith in God. It was faith in the internet. Or no, it was faith in people connected through the internet. We went on to start Brave New Films. We made several documentaries, we crowdfunded films, we changed things that I never even thought were possible, all by telling stories and connecting people through the internet. And then I ran out of breath, again. All the radiation treatments that I'd had years before for the cancer had scarred my lungs to the point where I couldn't even walk up the steps. They had to be replaced, double lung transplant. I needed someone to die so that I could be saved. First, I had to get on the list. All of the statistics for lung transplants are posted online, and UCLA had the best ones on the West Coast. But they took one look at my file and said, forget it, the surgery was too complicated. Come on! I was really pissed, so I blogged about it. I called the surgeons at UCLA a few names, which I probably shouldn't repeat here, but then something amazing happened. One of the volunteers at Brave New Films saw the post, and she wrote an email to the generic UCLA email address, accusing them of only doing easy surgeries to artificially inflate their statistics. Then my sister wrote an email, then all my friends wrote an email. This is what happens when your friends are activists. 2 weeks later, I got a call from the scheduler at UCLA. I told her they had already rejected me. She said, I don't know, you're on my list, you need an appointment. I met with the surgeon, and he said he'd been forwarded the emails. My case had been rejected before it had even gotten to him. Lung transplant surgeons have many great qualities, but humility is not one of them. No one was going to accuse him of being afraid of a surgery. There were many more hurdles for us to cross. The health insurance companies tried to weasel out of it. The transplant board kept coming up with excuses. I had no more tests to do every single week. But my friends, my family, their friends, a bunch of people from the internet all fought to get me on the list. And they got me on the list. A year later, the phone rang. Then my stepmom's phone rang. Then my dad's phone rang. It was time. As I was prepping for the surgery, I wasn't thinking about Jesus, or whether my heart would start beating again after they stopped it, or whether I would go to heaven if it didn't. I was thinking about all the people who had gotten me here. I owed every moment of my life to countless people I would never meet. Tomorrow, that interconnectedness would be represented in my own physical body. 3 different DNAs. Individually, they were useless, but together, they would equal one functioning human. What an incredible debt to I didn't even know where to start. And that's when I truly found God. God is just what happens when humanity is connected. Humanity connected is God. There was no way I would ever repay this debt. It was only by the grace of God, your grace, that I would be saved. The truth is, we all have this same cross to bear. We all owe every moment of our lives to countless people we will never meet. Whether it's the soldiers who give us the freedoms because they fight for our country, right? Or it's the surgeons who give us the cures that keep us alive. We all owe every moment of our lives to each other. We are all connected. We are all in debt to each other. What the internet gives us the opportunity to repay just a small part of that debt. As a child, I believed in creationism, that the universe was created in 6 days. Today, we are the creators. We each have our own unique skills and talents to contribute to creating the kingdom of God. We serve God best when we do what we love for the greatest cause we can imagine. What the people in this room do is spiritual, it is profound. We are the leaders of this new religion. We have faith that people connected can create a new world. Each one of us is a creator, but together, we are the creator. All I know about the person whose lungs I now have is that he was 22 years old and 6 feet tall. I know nothing about who he was as a person, but I do know something about his family. I know that in the height of loss, when all anyone should have to do is grieve, as their son or their brother lay motionless on the bed, they were asked to give up to 7 strangers a chance to live. And they said yes. Today, I breathe through someone else's lungs while another's blood flows through my veins. I have faith in people, I believe in God, and the internet is my religion.
That video, this version is one of the smaller versions. It's only 46,000. The video itself has actually been watched almost 1 million times. In the 3 weeks after that video was recorded, it was watched 500,000 times. Did Jim look like a polished speaker up there? Do you look like someone who does this for a living? He doesn't. He hates speaking in front of people. In fact, they had 3 people in the back. No, you can't come back off the stage. You can't come back off the stage. You have to go talk, Jim.
He's much better at it than he used to.
Oh, he's a heck of a lot better at it than he was there. But one of the things Jim has taught me is that whatever you say about your story is the right thing to say and is the thing people need to hear. It ties me back to this whole conference. Because the idea of this conference, of an unconference, is the law of 2 feet. If you're not hearing what you want to hear, go hear something else. If the right people aren't in the room, that's impossible because the people that are in the room are the right people. We're all here to share for a specific reason. And sharing is one last thing I'd like you guys to do. I'd like you to partner back up, because I'm going to ask you to join a group of 2 and make you guys a group of 3. And I want you to tell each other 2 things you're going to do. Not in a timeline. I don't believe in them anymore. But 2 things you're going to do to take your passion from passion to action so that others can help you make the change. So let's talk for a couple minutes. If you'd rather do a large group, I welcome that too, but it's sometimes easier just to talk to 1 or 2.
What are the 2?
I was going to say, why don't you 2 get together and then, or you can come over and join them, Bruce. Because you don't have a passion yet.
Well, I had one, but
And no, this is no easier than the telling the story part.
Well, my big thing is creating my website. Those are the biggest things.
It has been, and it is the strength that you share.
Not worried about I guess my.
But I kept remembering that.
Yeah, I mean, like,
When I was going through the
I have it
courses,
listed, I have it up, but I
trying to
haven't
figure out
figured
what
out
everything was. You can be a good person without being the person, the right person.
So it's very hard. It's hard to tell her.
You should steal more of them.
Do what
I'm going to pass them around again.
so that's not. I've been helping with that. And then like I said, just getting out of not trying to sell them something, trying to show them, hey, this is, I've been doing this work.
There is no shame.
But there's some time
There's definitely more. I don't know how. Mathematics. I had that challenge though. I wanted to see if I could do something about that. I studied all of my yards that year. I was interested in wait and be like, I should off make the presentation.
Hey, I'd like to well, I want to see our I mean, those are large projects. Then I can really just focus on developers
I know,
me,
I'm not asking for money.
you know, really trying to.
Another thing is my husband is kind of.
Somebody like you gives me a class.
I mean, I've done some big
I was gonna say, I need to pull us right back together for one quick thing. My Kindle's on the wrong time zone, so I forgot that was an hour behind. I want to thank you all for coming, but more than that, I want to challenge you. Don't be what others expect you to be. Because without figuring out what you expect, you'll never take that last step to change. If you need any help with it, let me know. If you're interested in learning more about Nation Builder and what he's done and such, there's flyers, there's buttons, there's pins. Take them, I don't want to take them home. And thank you all, I've really appreciated this hour. Thank you.
So I don't know how there's something to it. There's a song that you hear, and every time you hear it, you're like, maybe that's not nice. And for my kids, don't stop believing. So I go, don't stop. Oh yeah. That happens anyways. Everywhere I go. Yeah. I mean, I say you too. My friends are it's amazing. Every reason your mind picks up on that. Yeah. It's nice to see programs that you get to do with kids. Do you ever do like art therapy kind of things, or is it more taking care of them through those? Yeah, do you think it's sorry?
Oh, that's true too. There was that. There was the variety.
Thank you.
Or there. I came all the way from hell. I'm not going to be allowed to leave.
You mean Friday? Don't have a lot of
Votes like this, nice.
Okay. I'm not making no effort.
I was so mad. I feel about the shoes.
Here's why.
I think Friday
Always I think one of your fashion, one of those guys starts here.
Right.
And I hope you can you do the same. I'm Catholic. Find me there. Nutty. It's very fun. How are you, my Catholic?
great. And I just actually had a great secret cloud.
Have you read it?
Since you're checking, you get some extra raffle tickets. So chip one with the other one in the jar downstairs. You can win something. We yell on Facebook and Foursquare.
I know, I'm checking it out.
Oh, and you didn't get any extra tickets? Okay. Find out after all. Okay.
So, I mean,
Okay, I'll send my.
I
I thought I saw this.
about 34 years.
And informs opinion.
In 4 years, what I would have been. What I would have been. So,
I just.
I mean, I've got 3 updates. Make sure this thing's recording.
Sorry, I'll get it.
Everything I've already.
All right, then I'll have to really look at that. Because I'm trying to convince my husband that our videos, right now, it's, yeah, just like.